hello to everybody. It is the last session in our series of myth busting, so I'm so glad to be here with everybody that is online with me today. So as Beck was just saying, a few housekeeping things just to go through. It would be nice for everybody if you could just expand your screens out. So we highly recommend you to maximize your screen. You'll see that on the top bar and you'll see these little top two diagonally arrows. We recommend that only because we are going to have an interactive seminar today. What we mean by interactive seminar is that you are going to be doing a lot of pushing buttons. So I'm going to push some stuff out to you because we're going to ask you whether you think some stuff is a myth or whether you think some stuff is a truth. So you're going to actually get to be interactive with me throughout this hour, and in saying that, it would be best if you could maximize your screens. And as Beck was saying, if you did want to ask us any questions along the way, please feel free to put it into the chat or into the Q&A area. Either way, we will be able to respond to you at the end of the session. We will read out your questions, and anything that we can't get through, we will get back to you shortly. For anyone that has missed any of the other myth-busting series, you will be able to find that on our DDLS YouTube channel. Our DDLS YouTube channel has all the webinars that we hold as well as the myth-busting series. This is the fourth and the last one of our series. We've done one on BA, Facilitator, and the Change Manager, and now today we're going to do it on the Project Manager. Okay, now to get straight into the role of the project manager, we are going to do a lot of the details today based on the PMBOK. Some of you will know this better as PMP, and it is PMBOK standing for Project Management Body of Knowledge. Our body of knowledge is a professional association that's come together with all of these different industry bodies that have said, hey, this is what we believe is the best industry practice for project management. Here we've got what they believe is a project manager. This is definition according to the PMBOK. Not to say that this is the only definition, but this is the definition according to the PMBOK. It is the role of, okay, so they're saying here that this is the role of a project manager. Is a broad and encompasses many aspects. Project managers provide leadership and motivation, maintain focus and commitment, coordinate team members' tasks, and use resources efficiently and effectively. This ensures that the planning that they perform, the tasks that they delegate, and that the course corrections they make move the projects closer to the negotiated endpoint. We're going to talk more about what project looks like today, and we're going to talk a lot about the role of the project manager. And here we're going to focus on some of the definitions that you're going to learn, but where we need to first understand is that there are two types of projects, methodologies, frameworks that we're going to talk a lot about today. And where we're going to focus on is what we often hear, traditional projects and agile projects. And just to give a really short explanation of what a traditional project versus an agile project is. In our traditional speak, this was Winston Royce back in the 70s. Mr. IBM worked there and said, hey, to run a project, we need a phase of analysis. We need to go through a period of analysis where we gather our requirements, where we understand what we need to do, and then once we understand that, we're going to design it. And then once we've designed it, we're going to build it, we're going to test it, then we're going to implement it. All of that is sequential. So what we know this better as is waterfall. So as a waterfall is sequential, almost one way, we don't really cycle through much. When we start talking about an agile project, what we're going to do with agile projects is that we're going to do almost mini waterfalls, is how I like to talk about it, is that you do things in shorter periods. So you do it from 2 weeks to 6 weeks, and you do all of your analysis, your testings, your designings, as well as your builds, sometimes deploying depending on the organization that you're in, and you do that in the smaller chunks. So you're cycling through small little waterfall periods. So instead of looking at everything big picture, you're looking at smaller chunks at a time. So there are two types of projects that we're going to focus on today, traditional projects, where we better know that as waterfall, and then our agile projects as well. So the first one we're going to go straight into, we're going to have a series of statements just like these, and we're going to get you guys to decide whether you believe it is a myth or whether you believe it's a truth. What we do here is I'll go through the statements. This first one being all projects that PMs manage are unique and temporary. So I'd usually put 15 seconds up on the clock, and I would push this poll out to you guys. You should have the ability to now say whether you believe this is a myth or whether you believe this is a truth, that all projects that project managers manage are unique and temporary. All projects that project managers manage are unique and temporary. So with 15 seconds up on the clock, just to give everybody an opportunity to submit whether you think that this is a myth or whether you think this is a truth, as to whether project managers that you manage, whether you believe that this is a myth or a truth. So the statement that we're looking at right now is all projects that project managers manage are unique and temporary. All projects that project managers manage are unique and temporary. So I'm going to let the results come through right now. I'm going to collate the results and push it out to you guys as well so you can see how it all went and apply. We seem to have a almost borderline between the truth and the myth. We've got 42% of you saying that this was a truth, with 29% of you saying that this was a myth, and some of you on the fence about this. This is, in fact, with majority of you, a truth. Projects in each nature, so projects have characteristics, and irrespective of which type of projects you run, whether you run waterfall projects or agile projects, all projects will have a definition and characteristics of what they are. With the PMBOK, they would say that projects are temporary. In other words, there is a start time and an end time. There is a start date and an end date, so therefore making it temporary in nature. It doesn't roll on and on forever. I have previously in my past life being a project manager, and I was asked to join a project on its 7th year. And a project by its 7th year, I would almost say is BAU. It's more business as usual than it is a project. Project should have a start date, end date. It is shorter in interim because it has shorter objectives to aim for. If you do have a longer time scales, usually what we call those is a program. So what we'd like to focus on with the project is a start time and an end time. It is classified as a temporary organization that you put together. You put people together into a group, and that is a temporary organization to work towards start time and end time. Projects are always unique. In other words, you're never going to get exactly the same project. What I mean by this is that you're never going to have exactly the same start time, end time, exactly the same resources, exactly the same requirements. You will have what we call a like-for-like or similar projects. You may have had similar projects in the past, but never exactly the same. So projects in its nature are always unique. So irrespective of what projects you manage, whether it is a waterfall project or an agile project, all project managers manage unique and temporary projects. So every project that project managers run, always temporary and always unique. The next statement we're about to look at is project managers only focuses on the cost or the budget. Some people call it the cost, some people call it the budget. In other words, the dollars. So project managers only focus on the dollars, project managers only focus on the cost or the budget. So project managers only focus on the cost and the budget. So project managers only focus is pretty much on just the dollar signs. So is that what we're saying for project managers? Do you think this is a myth? Or do you think that this is a truth? I'm just letting the results come back through now. Project managers only focus on the cost and on the budget. This is a very strong response. I can see coming through right now. We've got a very strong amount of you guys saying that this is a myth. I'm just going to wait a few more seconds. Whether you believe project managers only focus on the cost and the budget, and pushing that out to you guys with your poll results now coming through. There is a 78% of you, a strong 78% of you saying that this is a myth, and no one saying that this is a truth, because correct, this is definitely a myth. Why we're saying this is with all project triangles, irrespective again of whether it is waterfall or agile, the project triangle happens for scope, time, and cost. With you guys might often say to me, but Louisa, what about resources? Resources is also something that we manage. Yes, you do. Your resources is part of your time and part of your cost. Your resources is time and cost. So your triangle that we focus on as project managers is your scope, time, and cost. You're always trying to look for a balance between those, and you're always trying to manage those. If you're looking at perspectives of like Prince 2, where you actually have 6 of these different types of tolerances, on top of those, you'll also have benefits, you also have quality, and you also have risks. Not to say that we're saying you don't do that as a project manager. As a minimum, you've always got your project triangle to consider, your scope, your time, and your cost. And if we were to expand out your tolerances into something like Prince 2, you also got your risks, qualities, and your benefits to also manage. So as a project manager, there are all those other aspects you have to manage, not just about the cost. We do get into a normal human nature, I would almost say, where we kind of say, hey, project manager, we're just currently always punching out the cost. And we're always saying how much is left of the budget. Are we on track with the budget? Are we on track with the time? And we forget about the fact that your scope, your benefits, your risks, and your quality all has to be aligned back to your business case. Why are you even doing this for? What is the purpose of your business case? Why are you even spending money on doing what you're doing? And do you actually lead back to your organization's strategic goals? So is that the reason why you're doing a particular project? Okay, so Our next one that we're going to take a look at is the project manager, and the change manager is the same thing. So for whether you guys believe this is a truth or a myth, a project manager and a change manager is the same thing. So again, pushing out the polls to you guys right now, whether you believe a project manager and a change manager is the same thing. Okay. So again, I'm going to collect the results as it's coming through now. So the statement that we just had is a project manager and a change manager is the same thing. Are we saying that a project manager is also a change manager and vice versa? A change manager is always a project manager? So let's take a look at what you guys had for results. And let me push that out to everybody. We've got 75%, a strong 75% of you saying that this is a myth, with 2% of you saying that's the truth, and some of you on the fence about this. We are again saying that this is a myth. It is a myth. It's not exactly the same. Not to say that we're not saying a project manager can't be a change manager. So the definition, according to the BABOK, with the full definition of what the change manager is there, it says that the change manager's role is to ensure acceptance. Okay, so we've got the responsibility as a change manager to really make sure that people come across the change, that they actually accept what the new to-be world is. You've got to make sure that people have that buy-in, which can be sometimes a conflict to what a project manager has to do, because a project manager cares about the time and the cost. Change manager needs as much time as possible. They need as much time as possible to why? To get people across the change. What we're saying here is that it is separate roles. There is change manager responsibilities and there is project manager responsibilities. You may be a change manager that has to take on some project management responsibilities, and you might also be a project manager that has to take on some change management responsibilities. But it's not to say that they are the same hat. You need to know which hat you're wearing at what times, because they're two separate roles. Our change manager focuses on making sure that people are going to buy into the change. People are actually going to transition. The key here is that people's behaviors do change, that they go from the old to the new. And where a project manager cares about is that the scope of the project actually gets delivered and delivered on budgets and on time, which is different to how many people actually comes across to the change. So a change manager, with its whole definition, cares about all the acceptance, the adoptions, and the sustaining of it. It's making sure that people actually come across the change. Here in our change manager's role, there is actually a whole different a whole different body of knowledge, known as the change management body of knowledge. And the change management body of knowledge also has industry practices as to how to be an effective change manager. Again, a completely separate role, completely separate responsibilities. And what we always say is that even though every project brings on change, a project manager is likely to take on some of those responsibilities, and it'll be good for you to understand what they are as well to be an effective project manager. But not to say that they are the same thing. They actually have different focuses and different responsibilities. Okay, the next role that we're going to compare against. So number 4 says the project manager and the business analyst. So a project manager and a business analyst is the same thing. So we're saying a project manager and a business analyst is the same thing. A project manager and a business analyst is the same thing. Okay. It's just been a bit delayed right now, so just pushing through results as they're coming through now. All right, a project manager and a business analyst is the same thing. With you guys, you have got 74% strong on saying this is a myth, with no one saying that this is the truth. You guys are absolutely correct. This is a myth. And again, similar to the change manager role, what we've got here is what a business analyst definition is. So a business analyst has to understand they're more the problem solver. So they've got to understand the business goals and the objectives. So you will hear more in the everyday terms that these are the requirements that a business analyst needs to understand. And again, I'm not saying that a project manager can't be a business analyst and a business analyst can't be a project manager, but there are different hats to wear. As a business analyst, you're going around understanding what the problem is and how we're going to solve it. But before you get to the how, you actually have to understand the what. What what is the business need? What is the business actually after? What are we trying to solve here? What is the actual problem that we're trying to equate to? And here the business analyst has to talk to a number of different stakeholders, and here they're kind of fleshing out the scope. So they're understanding a lot more of that detail. So your business analyst focus is on problem solving and being that middleman between what you guys would say is the project and with the business stakeholders. Our project manager does do a little bit of scope entailing, but you often do have a business analyst in the project. But you might say to me, Louisa, we do have smaller projects, and in smaller projects, the project manager also has to be the business analyst. Yes, I've been there myself. I've been a project manager that had to be a change manager and a business analyst, but at all points in time, you had to know which hat you're wearing. And you need to do some training in understanding what are those skill sets that you need to be a business analyst, to be a change manager, to be a project manager. All of these roles have different responsibilities, and all of these have separate box. So with the BA one as well, there is a BABOK, there is a business analyst body of knowledge. So with that one, again, another body of institute here with IIBA, they govern the BABOK, and with the change management with the CMI, they govern the SIMBOK. So again, just like the project management one, different body of knowledges that is acquired by industry speak on what they say is best practice there. So again, our business analyst, change manager, and the project manager, all different roles with different responsibilities. Okay, change manager focuses on the transition, the business analyst focuses on your requirements, and your project manager focuses on your project triangle and making sure that they manage it through the triangle. Okay, the next one says project managers work to, let me push up the poll to you guys. Project managers work to a project plan, irrespective of the framework. So whether it is a traditional or an agile project, you still work to a project plan. So project managers work to a project plan, irrespective of the framework. Okay. Project managers work to a project plan, irrespective of the framework, whether it is a traditional agile project. So even if you're running an agile project or you're running a waterfall project, irrespective of which type of project you are running. Okay. Statement again, project managers work to a project plan irrespective of the framework. So whether it is a traditional project or whether it is a waterfall project, project managers always work to a project plan. Okay, and again, taking a look at your results here, we've got coming through, pushing it back to everybody, we have 67% of you saying that this is a truth, with 2% of you saying that this is a myth. This is, in fact, with the majority of you saying a truth. This is a truth. Irrespective of which type, whether it is a waterfall or whether it is an agile project, there is still some sort of a plan. The plan is significantly different, I do say. So I have run both waterfall and agile projects myself. In my waterfall projects, I would have my Gantt chart with exactly the resources of who does what when. Okay, and it gives me a spreadsheet of almost looking into the future of my 6 months to a year's time. With agile projects, you still have a plan. You do your release plannings, or you may do a sprint planning or iteration planning. It's still a plan. You're still working towards the plan, but the level of detail is different. You're capturing a different level of detail, but not to say that you're not still working towards a plan. You still need to know approximately the features that you could be deploying out, and you need to still know that what the team needs to focus on in that shorter period. So there is still a plan. It's just a different type of plan. What a project plan still focuses on is that you still need a description and benefits, okay? So you're still working towards a benefit irrespective of whether it is a waterfall or agile project. Why are you doing this project? Your plan should always be looking back at what is my justification for my project, irrespective of whether it is waterfall or agile. You should always have your high-level objectives in there. You should always know where your end product or end date, as you may say, you need to work towards that end goal. Even with an agile project, there is actually an end goal to an agile project. You still actually have what is classified even as a minimal viable product or a minimal usable subset, okay, or the actual fixed state that you have. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. And what we want to make sure is in our plan, we still capture all those. So irrespective of waterfall or agile, a good project manager always still works towards some sort of a plan. Okay. The next statement that we're looking at, statement number 6, Agile PMs do not focus on the project triangle. So Agile PMs do not focus on the project triangle. Agile project managers do not, okay, so you don't focus on the project triangle. Agile PMs do not focus on the project triangle. Okay. I'm seeing some results come through. All right. So here we're saying with Agile PMs, we do not focus on the project triangle. So you're not looking at your time, cost, and scope when it comes to an Agile project. So as an Agile project manager, your focus isn't on the project triangle anymore. There's no time, cost, budget involved. Here we have a strong 59% of you saying that this is a myth, and a 4% of you saying that this is a truth. What we do have here is we are saying that this is a myth. Okay, this is a myth with our project triangles. The triangles still exist, irrespective of whether it is a waterfall project or whether it is a agile project. The difference we've got here between the two is that you will see your variables change. So let's start with our left-hand side being our traditional approach. I call this my 4 balls diagram. And in my 4 balls diagram, in my traditional approach, you guys know this better as waterfall. What we have as a fixed feature, this is the stuff in the yellows, the fixed items is your scope. Your scope is fixed. So picture building me a house. Let's go away from what type of project this can be. Let's do something simple like building me a house. If you guys were building me a house back in the days in Waterfall, what happens here is you would then say to me, Louisa, tell me all the details about your house. So I would need to sit down with you, and for a large chunk of time, so it could be a few months, I need to give you all the details of my house. I need to give you exactly what color paint it is, what color of doors, what type of windows. I need to tell you how many bedrooms, what type of kitchen it is, marble bench tops, electric cooking, etc., etc., etc. I have to give you all the details. And what happens there is you would usually get your business analyst involved in writing up a business requirements spec or a business requirements document, both of which ends up being my contract. So me as the stakeholder, me as the person that you're going to build the house to, you end up saying, this is my fixed house, this is what we've come to an agreement on, and this is the contract between you guys as the project and me as the main stakeholder. So you then say to me, Louisa, we're going to go away and we're going to build this house. We're going to build it to the spec that you've told us, and this is exactly what your scope is. So we've locked that down, and that is classified as fixed. What happens in Waterfall is if we run out of time or we run out of money, you ask me for more so that we can build to that scope. So you then go to me, Louisa, we need to then go and have a little bit more time because it's been 6 months and we've only done 4 of the bedrooms, but we haven't done the study, for example, okay? So you then ask me for more time or you ask me for more money because why? Your scope is locked. Your scope is locked down. So you've already told me that is exactly what you're building me. So if you haven't finished it, you ask for more time and you ask for more money. On the flip side, if you're still building me a house, but you're building it in Agile, what happens here is you will then have your time and your cost as fixed. So what happens is me, as the stakeholder, I'll go to the bank and I'll go, hey bank, how much can you lend me? The bank will go, according to your salary, maximum I can lend you $500,000. So at that point in time, I've got a fixed amount of money. I can't get any more, I can't borrow anywhere else, there's no other ways to get funds. So then with my time, I look at it and go, I'm currently renting. So if I'm currently renting, I have to move out at that set date. That's 8 months away. Okay, so I give you guys 8 months and $500,000. That is my fixed time and my fixed cost. Okay, so my fixed time, fixed cost. What happens is that your scope becomes your variable item. And here in most Agiles, you always have a list of prioritized items, things to do. And we do that in priority order. What is the most important things for my house? So for it to be a house, it needs to have my 4 walls, the base, the roof, and a few bedrooms, kitchen, bathroom. Okay, and then we have this priority list, and we keep going down the priority list, and we list it all down, all the way down to my garage, down to walk-in wardrobes, down to my garden, okay? My garden, to me, is not a necessity, but that's to me personally. Not to say that everybody's priorities are the same, but to the person that is paying, they get to prioritize this list. I'm pretty much a brown thumb. Anything that comes through to me will die. So what I have to make sure is that I do the more important stuff to me, which is I got to make sure I eat every day. So I want to make sure I have a kitchen. So to me, the higher priority there is to make sure I have kitchen, bathroom, I've got my 4 walls, the roof, and the base of my house, minimum, 1 room. I keep listing everything down, and what happens in an Agile project is you cut off. You cut off at that time or at the cost. So whether at $500,000 that you spent on my money or at 8 months where you've spent all the time, you will move into this house. So in other words, I will have something because you would have built it to me in my priority order. But I might move into what is classified as an unfinished house almost. So I might not have a driveway. I might have to park the car outside in the interim because the garage isn't finished. There's no garden around the house. There isn't walk-in wardrobe. There's no built-in wardrobes either. I have to buy some wardrobes. That was low on my priority list. For me, you would have built the higher priorities. In other words, it's still a house. I can still move in. So Agile still states that you are still looking at your project triangle. You're still looking at your cost, time, and your scope. You're just looking at the variable items a little bit differently. So you've got your variable items changing. And we need to keep that in mind that there has to be some sort of a variable item. If you were ever given a project where time, cost, and scope is all fixed, you're pretty much doomed to fail. You need to have some sort of flexibility, and that flexibility is your contingency. You are unable to fix all components of your triangle. Okay, the next statement that we've got there is a project manager can, so I'll just push that out to you guys, a project manager can work on any type of project framework. A project manager can work to any project framework, so whether it is traditional or agile projects. Just making sure I push that out to you. A project manager can work to any project framework, so whether it is traditional or whether it is agile projects, a project manager can work to any framework, so any project framework. So whether it is a traditional framework or an agile framework, a project manager can work to any framework. Just lagging a little bit there. Okay. A project manager can work to any project framework, whether it is traditional or whether it is agile. A project manager can work to any project framework. Let's take a look at what you guys have all just said on this poll. Pushing out to you guys. He has 54% of you saying that this is a truth, with 7% of you saying that this is a myth. This is with the 54% of you saying that this is a truth. So a project manager can work to any framework. Okay, so the idea behind this is that it doesn't mean that you're going to just be able to pick up an agile project come tomorrow. Okay, there is a little bit of training that is required to make sure that you understand the difference in framework between traditional and agile. But most organizations have different types of framework. What I mean by this is most organizations have even their own project management framework. And a good project manager would use the same skills. You still have to do a project plan. You still have to look after risks. You still have to look after benefits. You still have to look after business justification, your scope, your time, your cost. You're just using all of those variable items that you've got ahead of you differently. So where we've got our traditional projects, you still use your same skill sets in a traditional project of you still got to go through your feasibility, analysis, design, your code, your test, and your implement. That is how traditionally it came through. Winston Royce actually came up with this as a white paper back in the 70s, and he said the best waterfall type of projects, the best traditional projects would be if you did all of this once and you actually repeated at least once. Okay, he actually said you should repeat this because of the fact that we're not mind readers and we can't actually look in the crystal ball and get it all right the first time. So in these type of situations, they always say it's best to actually repeat it and do it again. But however, when he was working in IBM in the 70s, they ran out of budget in their first cycle, so they never actually repeated it, and he again became the father of Waterfall. What we've got with an agile project is that we're going to do exactly those analysis, design, code, test, and implements, but we're doing them in shorter cycles. So all the skill sets that you need as a project manager to manage whether a waterfall project or an agile project is still necessary. You're still doing all of those type of management, but you're just doing it at different times. You are using your skill sets at a different time, and you are also managing different types of teams. You've got teams that are more self-organized in an agile world versus what you've got in a waterfall traditional aspects. But for a project manager, it's about how do you take those competencies, those skill sets, and then apply it to any framework that is ahead of you. And most project managers would, if you've progressed through a lot of different organizations, would have seen that even organizations introduce their own type of framework. They've got a blended flavor of PMBOK, sometimes a blended flavor of Prince2, sometimes you've seen some Scrum Band, some Agiles. So you've done a mix of varieties, and sometimes it can be what an organization creates on their own as well. So a project manager can and will be able to use the same skill sets that they've already got in any type of different framework. Okay. The last statement we've got for today is a good project manager must be certified. A good project manager must be certified. So pushing it out to you guys, a good project manager must be certified. So for me to say that you guys are a good project manager, you must be certified. A good project manager must be certified. Okay. A good project manager must be certified. So do you guys have to be certified for you to be a good project manager? There are a lot of certifications out there these days, so it's always about which one should I do? Should I get certified? Does that make me a better project manager? So taking a look at what you guys have also said and pushing the results out to you guys. 60% of you say that that is a myth, with 8% of you saying that that is the truth. I've gone with you guys and agreed that this is a myth. A good project manager needs to be certified, not to say that you shouldn't get certification. So certification helps in assisting the project manager to acknowledge that this is the knowledge that I've already got, and that supports a good project manager, but it's not to say that you have to get certified for you to become a good project manager. There are many project managers who are out there 20 years, 25 years, 30 years with great on-the-job experience. What happens with certification is that it backs that knowledge, it supports it, and it gives you that fundamentals of where to go. Some of these certifications in front of you, three very typical ones. On your left-hand side, you've got the PMBOK, which is for your PMP certification. In the middle, we've got your Prince 2 certification, and on the right-hand side, you've got Agile PM certification. Again, these are good entry points for a lot of people who are changing careers into project management or looking to go a certain different avenue of project management, or even just to support themselves to go, hey, I've been a project manager for 20 years. Do I actually know the know based on what these certifications are? Because these certifications are based on what they call good practices in the industry, and they're constantly being kept up to date. Prince 2, for example, is getting a revamp this year for 2017, and the reason why they're doing a revamp is that they're keeping up with the industry, and they're making sure that what happens in the industry still gets happened up to date, and it gets kept up to date for industry people, for practicing project managers. If you did want to know more about any of those certifications or courses, you will be able to go on our website, www.ddls.com.au, go under courses. If you go under process and project management, you'll actually see that we have a large flavor of different project management courses, and that ranges from how to manage risks, how to manage portfolios, benefits, all the way from our introductory courses through to advanced project managers, some certified, some not certified. So certification again isn't for everybody, but it helps give you that backing and an international certification as well that goes with it and supports it. We are across Australia in 7 different locations. We do also offer DDLS anywhere, which means that if you're on regional sites or anywhere that you cannot get to us physically into an office, you can do what you're pretty much doing right now and go to us virtually into the classrooms. So we do have technologies that allows you to do DDLS anywhere courses. If you have been with us for the 4 seminars, you will now be able to get your voucher to get your $300 off our process courses with our MythBust code. So I do thank you for being able to join us for all 4 sessions. For the people who have been here throughout the series, it's been great fun. MythBusting, a BA, facilitator, change manager, and project manager with you guys. As I did mention, Prince 2 is getting an update, so anyone that is certified as a Prince 2 project manager, there is a massive update coming this year. What I mean by massive, new textbooks, new syllabus, the new whole galore. It is a 2017 Prince 2 update. We do have a webinar on that next month that talks about the differences and what those differences look like in the coming future. So if you do want to join us in July, you are able to register now on our DDLS website as well under events. So you'll be able to see what the Prince 2 updates are. Okay. Any questions, Beck?
I think we actually do have a few questions coming through. So I guess, the biggest question here is, as a PM, I'm hearing things like Agile more and more these days. Are you saying that Agile is better and the way of the future?
I wouldn't ever say anything is better, because every organization is not a one-size-fits-all. Projects is never a one-size-fits-all. And I would never say to someone, well, you should only go Agile. That's never the way forward. And Yes, agile, you're now hearing it more as a buzzword and it's happening more and more. But what we mean by the fact that there's agile is just that there's another option. We've actually always been doing agile projects as well. However, we've just never branded it and we've never given it a name and we never gave it a certification as such. Now we're saying, hey, we recognize that this is a formal framework on its own. I would never actually suggest for you to build a bridge in Agile. If you build me a bridge, it's black and white. You know exactly how that is. You're going to formulate it once, get the right spec, and you're going to build that bridge. I wouldn't want you to build it halfway, change the style the other halfway, and then it actually never connects as a bridge. That would be the worst disaster of a project I could get for a waterfall project. So I would actually stick that one to waterfall. However, could you use Agile in a lot of different circumstances? By all means. People often say to me, Louisa, is Agile only for software development? Yes, it came from that. Historically, it's coming from software development, but I planned my wedding, I planned house renovations all in Agile. Why? Because Agile is just about a list of priorities. As long as you've got a list of things to do and you've got a priority order and you need to execute it in priority order, then you should be able to do it in Agile.
I guess that's such a creative way to think about Agile is you can use it both in your personal and your professional career. So thank you for that.
I live and breathe project management, so I run my life as if I'm a project manager all the time.
On that note, you did mention that, PMs are not BAs or change managers, but on a smaller project, I have to do all of that as a project manager. Can you clarify that?
Yes, so as a on small projects, I don't deny I've done that myself. I've been a project manager that needed to be a business analyst and a change manager. I'm just making sure that people understand that there are different responsibilities. And if you are going to be one of those type of project managers who has to do a little bit of change and has to do a little bit of BA work, I would highly recommend you to actually go and do some training on what the introductory level of a BA is and the introductory level of what a change manager is. At least understand those responsibilities well enough for you to then go, well, I'm wearing that particular hat and how do I do it in those instances? You might be a brilliant project manager and think you know what a change manager and a business analyst needs to do, but they're quite full, substantial roles on its own. So understanding those skill sets will also help you as well.
Fantastic. I've got a question coming through from Anthony. So he says, with so many options of courses, how do I know what course should I attend? What should I be looking for in a course?
Yeah, so definitely drop us a line because we like to cater to our clients' needs. So we actually do have the conversations with you, Anthony. That way we know where you are in your current situation. We know what you're currently doing with your organization, because it's not good for me to just give you this is the definite course that you should do, because if I do say that, they might not be right for you. So it'll be good for us to understand your circumstances. So definitely drop us a line. So to our training line, to either drop us an email or get with us either on our Twitters or our Facebooks or our LinkedIn and drop us a line, and we can definitely respond to you on engaging, getting an account manager to give you a call and see what is best for you and then give you the best direction moving forward.
So just to give you the email address, it's actually at training@ddls.com.au, Anthony, if you need further details. Anthony, I hope that answers your question. If not, we'll be more than happy to have this conversation with you further. Louisa, we've got another question coming in from Ditto. Can you run telecommunication networking engineer projects with Agile?
It depends what you're doing. So I've previously in the past, I've worked for Optus in the past, and we had infrastructure projects. I even used to be a Unix administrator, and we could do those in Agile only because you knew how to break it up into the chunks. You have to have the ability to break up that work into chunkable sizes. If you're going to tell me, Louisa, we can't chunk it up, we can't break it down into sizable chunks, and that there's no priority order. If you're going to tell me, Louisa, we have to do it all anyway, there's no priority order, then perhaps not. So I'll have to take a look at what that project entails and as to whether it is good or not good for Agile. There is, even in the Agile PM course, there's actually a little project approach questionnaire, which is called the PAC, and it actually gives you a list of questions where you kind of put little ticks and crosses against whether this particular project of yours is good for Agile or not, because it's not suited for every type of project. It depends project to project circumstances. So you might want to have a check of that particular PAC, project approach questionnaire, if you want it. If you drop us a line as well, happy to send you a one-pager of that so that you can see whether your project is suited.
That's good. Thank you, Louisa. So Denise just asked if the PowerPoint slides are going to be made available. The answer is yes. We will definitely be sending you the presentation and also the recording after the event. So keep an eye out on that through your email. But I'm just going to check with Manuela to see if there's any other questions that have come through that I have missed. Manuela, can you see any other questions?
Hi, Beck. No, I can't see anything else from my end.
I
think
there's another one.
There's one more. Yes.
Okay, so we just put that one. Okay, so it's Gito again. What is the typical next step for a PM in terms of career role? And what DDLS courses should I take to help me get there?
And again, that's a good question. Again, depends on whether you want a sideward step. Sometimes people go, well, I've done enough project manager and project management isn't for me. Project management isn't for everybody. Some people go, actually, I'm better as a business analyst. I'm better as a change manager if you want to take sideward left, right steps. Some people then say to me, Louisa, I've been running projects for a long, long time, and I think I'm at that next level, which then there is things like managing programs and also managing portfolios. So going to take a look at MSP, managing successful programs, and also MOP, management of portfolios, so that you're beyond just looking at the shorter interim projects, how you look at programs and how you also look at running a rolling cycle portfolio as well. So there are a few other aspects also there to consider. And again, Dipto, definitely I think we should have a chat.